3 stars in the NBA are available right now. They're all cheap. Should the Jazz pounce? It's next on Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. To the everydayers out there, you are the greatest, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, if you're wondering, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're on audio, I hope you can't tell. If you're watching on YouTube, the ridiculous setup I have right now, I'm going to gripe right now, is that there's a trend in hotel rooms that they have deemed it unnecessary to have desks, which really sucks if you're actually trying to work while you're in their hotel. So my hotel room, which is whatever, has a bed and a couch and no desk. So I have removed all items from the minibar and turned the minibar into my studio, and I'm standing because there's no chair in the entire room. There's not a chair in the entire room. There's a couch, but not a chair. Super great. I'm super pleased about this, if you can tell. I know it's a silly gripe. We stay in wonderful, nice hotels. I shouldn't complain, except for the fact unless I want to work. And then, so today I'll actually end up in either a coffee shop or the lobby or somewhere all day long. So we are doing the show standing, which is how I call games, but it isn't how I usually do the show, which also means I have like 0 notes in front of me today because there's no room for notes, which is fine because I can do 90% of this. It's prepared. But I just thought I'd share if you're wondering what the ridiculous setup is. All right. We're going to talk about a little bit Detroit. They're in the rebuilding process and where they are. We play them tonight. Cade Cunningham is coming at you full steam ahead, and it will be interesting to see what the Jazz do. Elijah Harkless is the flavor of the day. We'll talk about his role and how long this lasts for the Jazz. I think there's something to being talked about within good vibes. I've noticed it around the league in places and not in other places, and it's worth mentioning. And Kevin Love is the forefront of it for the Jazz. We're starting with the fact that there are 3 marquee stars available right now for the taking. Probably some of them have been for a while, and they're getting cheaper by the day. The 3 stars that are available are Ja Morant in Memphis, much talked about. Zion Williamson, who just had a hamstring injury yesterday and is out again. And Trae Young, who has been available for a while. All of these have been available for a while. None of them have been moved. All of them are getting cheaper by the day. And the question is, and all of them are elite level talents. So there's 2 thoughts here from a Jazz standpoint. One is it's super questionable of whether you can win with any of them. And if the goal is to win, then maybe the answer is no, hard no on all 3, which, by the way, worth noting, when you suddenly say hard no on all 3, you are suddenly you are limiting like the amount of players you're willing to go trade and go get at that point gets slim. And maybe it is slim. Maybe there aren't that many guys willing to go get. The other one I would say, I do think is interesting. You have to put in the calculus right now. They're all so cheap, I think. I think they're all so cheap right now that you could consider whether you just get them to move them, rehabilitate them, and get something else. The question is what I think is wild. Here's the real question for you. And I'll try to throw this up as a YouTube poll question as well. Which of the 3 are you most likely to win with? Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, or Trae Young. Here's my quick take on this. Zion is the most dominant talent of the three due to his size. When Zion, if they're all right, I think Zion is the most dominant talent of the three and the one who gives you the biggest edge, forces the opponent to alter the most in every way possible. He's just that big, that strong, that powerful, that awesome. Now, his team certainly hasn't won a lot, hasn't won a single game this year before he got injured. And, we're talking about a guy who played 30 games last year, 70 the year before that, 29 last year, did not play the year before that, 61 and 24. So it might be just a ridiculous concept. The other thing on Zion Williamson, he is probably, Nico Harrison, he is probably the worst defensive player in the NBA. And if he's not, Luka is. And if he's not, Trae Young is. So let's get to Trae Young for a second. Trae Young, to me, is such a dominant offensive gift and so incredible that he immediately makes you a top 10 offense. Now, you have to build your offense around him. You have to run with him. I think Quinn last year for a while seems to have moved off this a little bit. Quinn last year for a while tried to run early. And then if they didn't get something early, then they went to the Trae Young pick and roll. And to me, that's the answer. Now, Atlanta, Trae Young is out, and all of a sudden, Atlanta might look a little bit better. Maybe the day is over for the heliocentric guard. I don't think so. I'm watching Luka Doncic in LA. I don't think it's over. I'm watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City. I don't think it's over. But Trae Young is so gifted with his passing, so incredible on the pick and roll offensively, that I think you literally have to decide that you're playing pick and roll and he's your guy. Now, what's really interesting is, for whatever reason, they've slid off this a little bit in Atlanta. Right now, Trae Young is running 35 pick and rolls a game. And last year, I think I'll have to check this. My memory is that last year he was running far more than that. And so they do seem to be moving a little bit off of the idea that Trae Young is becoming their sole force. And I think I'm not sure I understand that. Last year, Trae Young ran 46 pick and rolls a game. This year, he's running 35 pick and rolls a game. So Atlanta has moved way off of having Trae Young be the center of their offense. They're obviously transitioning out of the Trae Young era. He is injured. They suddenly look really good. They got a win against Orlando, who couldn't look worse. And so you have to commit to Trae Young. The third one is Ja Morant. I got to be honest on this one. I don't know how good he is. I don't know that he's a top 15 guard in the NBA. I know he's got a shoe, and I know he's highlight driven, and I know he's fast, and I know he does all sorts of things. But, he's an average points per shot guy with all that. He's a 100% usage guy, 100% area usage. He can't shoot a three. His three-point shooting percentage the last few years is 32, 28, and 33. Okay? His rim finishing over the last 5 years has begun to decline from 66 to 58% this year. But more importantly, his amount of shots at the rim have begun to decline. He used to take 43% of his shots at the rim. And this year he's taking 26% of his shots at the rim. And maybe this year is weird, but last year, 2 years ago, last year was 33% of his shots at the rim. I think you've got to look at Ja Morant and try to figure out who he actually is. Ja Morant is a long two pull-up mid-range jumper who you're going to have to put the ball in his hands to win a ball game, and I don't know that he's good at that. His long two shooting is 39% for the last two seasons. His overall mid-range shooting, which includes the floater, is 44%. He doesn't get to the rim anymore, and he can't shoot a three. And he's not good defensively. Of the three guys, Trae Young, Zion Williamson, and Ja Morant, that's probably the third guy I would touch, plus a ton of off-court issues. And cheap, though. The cheap factor just kind of changes everything. Now, the Jazz are interesting in what they have as their picks. We're certainly not trading this year's pick under any circumstance. And then we have the Minnesota and Cleveland picks moving forward. And we've done some other things where we traded, our future worst of the three to Phoenix. And so then what you suddenly have done on this is if you're trading one of your picks, you're trading your second best. It gets a little more complicated. You kind of know what you're giving up. And so actually our cadre of picks is not as robust as it once was in regards to the trade market. I mean, we have the 2027 Laker pick, which actually at this point I'm pretty willing to move, right? That was a nice try, but with Luka, I think that. And in 2027, we have our pick. We have the better of the Minnesota and Cleveland picks, and we have the Laker pick. So you could move one of those. 2028, we have our pick. It's pick swapped with Cleveland, but I don't think that'll matter. 2029, we have our Minnesota's 2029 pick. There's a lot of time there for Anthony Edwards to leave. Probably not going to happen, but boy, we'd really look foolish if you trade the 2029 pick and then it ends up Anthony Edwards leaves. And by the way, that third pick of that year, I believe, goes to Cleveland. Goes to Phoenix in the leftover part of that deal. So our third pick of 2027 and our second pick of 2020, or our Cleveland Minnesota combo, the lesser pick in 2027 goes to Phoenix. So does the 2029. We're not trading the 2031 Phoenix unprotected, by the way. That's like our gold child right there. So it's an interesting thing. We suddenly don't have that many picks to move. And so this is another reason why you're probably passing, is this would be if you were to trade two picks here, you trade the Laker 2027 and the R 2029, or the lesser of R 2029s between Utah and Cleveland and Minnesota that isn't already going to Phoenix. So the second lesser to get one of these players, you don't have a ton left. Now, there is a point where we just don't need that much more young talent. Frankly, we're going to get a good player in 2026. We have 3 picks coming our direction in 2027, which is too many. So we need to move one of those. So that actually makes sense. Maybe you trade the Minnesota Jazz Cleveland second pick that year and hold on for the Lakers and move the Lakers pick. That actually makes sense. And if you do move one of your 2029, we just don't need that many young players. So maybe moving to isn't that big a deal. The question is this when you want to do it? Is this the time to do it? We'll talk a little bit more about this, and then let's jump in on vibes with the team, Elijah Harkless' role, and what's taking place with Detroit's growth as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by Intercap Lending. Steve Carter is our own personal loan officer. He's really quite awesome. This is, as for those of you everydayers, you've heard this before, but Intercap is a Utah-based company, but not exclusively to Utah. So if you're outside the area, you can use Intercap as well. And the other thing I would say is one of my most favorite things about having Intercap as a sponsor is I know how you're going to be treated by Steve Carter. And Steve has just been miraculous in how consistently amazing he is in all of his customer service with our listeners over the years. And that's what makes me the happiest. If you go check out the reviews of what we've had, Steve Carter made our home purchase smooth and stress-free. He was responsive and patient and explained every step from pre-approval to closing. So we also knew what to expect. Great rate, clear communication, On-time closing, highly recommended. Michael said Steve Carter was great to work with from start to finish. I would highly recommend Intercap to anyone looking for a home loan. Intercap lending right now continues to offer a fantastic two-time closed construction loan, perfect for anyone building their dream home. If they've already owned the land can't count can count as collateral toward the down payment, and there's even the option to defer interest payments during the build. It's a huge benefit for managing cash through construction. Steve Carter, Intercap have all these loan options. He's licensed in multiple states, so even if you're moving or relocating, he can help you. So give me an email at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com, and let me give you get you connected VIP with Steve Carter over at Intercap Lending. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. It's also the official betting partner of the NBA. Get into the action now with FanDuel. Make every game a little bit more fun. That's right. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making the late push. Right now, FanDuel is offering customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Sportsbook line check for the night. I have an obnoxious app, which I've set to tell me every time a line moves on a Jazz game this year, just so I know what's going on. Holy smokes, they move 33 times a day. I had to finally cancel it. So I don't have it right now. But the Jazz tonight are a 10.5-point underdog to the 5-2 Detroit Pistons. All right, let me conclude this conversation. There's three things that I think you have to decide between Trae Young, Ja Morant, and Zion Williamson. First is, do you think you can win with any of them? So I think you can win with Zion if he's healthy. I think he's that special. He's just horrific defensively. Just horrific. I think Trae Young is a walking, if done correctly, is a walking top 5 offense. I think he's really special. I think you're going to have to figure out how you protect him defensively in as many ways as you possibly can. I think that is certainly would be tricky. And Ja Morant, I don't think you can win with him. I think the collective opinion by most people is the exact opposite. But that's kind of where I fall. Is I have always been kind of on Zion Williamson. You just can't get talent like that. We could go lose 65 games for 5 years in a row, and we would just hope to get a talent like Zion Williamson. Now, the hamstring injury on a year where he supposedly came back in shape, all these other things that are, continue to be issues for him. Super telling. And maybe all the reason in the world to stay away. And Trae Young, the fact that Atlanta has him and isn't willing to invest in that extension, pretty telling. And the fact that Atlanta has only gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is still impressive. But I think you could build with either of those two. And the second thing I would say is that they're both super cheap right now. And there is an element that, you get them, you deal with it, you move. The third thing I didn't really talk about is from a money standpoint, the time's probably right for us to be able to do something like that. And you could build around it pretty quickly and get this thing going. Now, there are some questions about Trae Young's personality. I don't know that to be the case. And so I don't want to comment on that, but I don't want to ignore the fact that that's out there. And then also, if these are your best players, is this actually a model? The answer might be to pass on all three. And that's probably what you do if you're the Jazz. I will say what gets difficult when you're suddenly, at least from my standpoint, when you start to want to pass on everyone, who are you making a move on? And maybe that's the kind of patience you have to have in the front office of an NBA team, is that you're waiting until the day comes where you actually have the right type of player and the right moment to get the right guy. Or maybe it's just as simple as you're waiting out for your own development, which is hard and long and brutal. So this is super complicated. These three are all available. They're all cheap. No one else in the league is pouncing. Not sure you want to be the team that pounces. The Zion one also to me is super interesting because if you have him for the year and he's injured and you lose a bunch of games and you get your pick, then you rev him up next year with Lowry and you see what you can do. He frankly is pretty perfect next to Lowry if you have some sort of rim defender. Like Lowry, Walker, and Zion gets kind of interesting with Ace Bailey and whatever draft pick. There's a chance there. And I just can't figure out how you're getting that elite level talent otherwise. Those are my thoughts. Have you guys seen the picture of Kevin Love? Reaction to the Jazz win? That matters. Kevin Love bounding off the bench, going bonkers at the end of the game the other night is literally one of the coolest things ever. Jazz Nation has it on Instagram if you want to follow them. It's around there, out there. I don't want to grab a screen share and make a mistake and put something up. And I got a neat chance last night. One of the really cool NBA experiences is I came back from dinner last night, found an elite spot in Detroit. It was fabulous. And then happened to stop by the lobby, which is really nice and has desks. So it's cool. Or has tables so you can actually sit down. You can work there. And I was talking, and Kevin was there, so I chatted with him last night, and just like, your reaction was awesome. And he was like, I mean, come on, that's what I have right now. Like, I gotta love this. I got to play. I'm sorry Walker's hurt, but I get to play, and this is amazing, and that matters. The Elijah Harkless energy vibe matters. Like, Elijah Harkless is flying around the floor, playing so damn hard, and everyone on the team knows it, that everyone else had to match that level. Somebody on the floor, in human behavior is often that somebody else has to do something first to signal to you that it's okay for you to do it too. I know that sounds weird, but if you actually think about that, that's actually the way humans work. So somebody at a party has to start having a great time on their own, independently, to make everybody else suddenly get festive. That's literally how it works. If no one does it, then everyone just sits around like a bunch of wallflowers and you're at a dud. The Kevin Love's sideline reaction as a 19 years in the NBA sends a signal to everybody else that it's all right to be happy, joyous, and excited about winning an NBA game, and you don't have to worry about being too cool. And the fact that he's treating like winning on that given day, great. The plane flight was, he and George make the plane flight more fun. He and George are incredible. It's not George's, but that's what we have fun with. They're incredible human beings to have on this basketball team. George has not played. He hasn't practiced, and yet he's having a massive impact. Keontae talked to me the other day about what Kevin Love has done for him by having the locker room next to him. This is awesome stuff. And I am not a believer in veteran leadership, but these guys are just in the right place at the right time. And George is just the right dude. And so these guys are adding an incredible amount to the team. Off the court, vibes, energy. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to enjoy yourself. It's okay to be happy. It's great. It's okay to be excited. And what Elijah Harkless just did on the basketball floor is it's all right to play hard. Like, he literally comes out like just a whirling dervish tornado, Elijah, coming into the game, and it sends a message to everyone else like, oh, it's okay if I do that, but also I better match that a little bit. And those kind of collective energy vibes are a part of this. The one thing that's jumping out to me as I watch NBA teams right now is I always look early in the season to see what benches are up. Philadelphia's bench is up right now. Philadelphia's bench is standing up the whole time, rooting for their guys, doing all sorts of stuff. Super interesting. That's not been a collective vibe team in any way, shape, or form, with Joel Embiid. Seems to be that right now. Don't know what's changed there, but something has. Orlando is not. Orlando's a sit on the hands bench team right now. They're watching the other guys with like a little disdain, it looks like. Orlando's kind of a mess. So it's worth watching. Like, I haven't seen it, but I'd be curious to watch Atlanta with Trae Young playing and without Trae Young playing, and how the bench reacts. I thought Charlotte the other night, and this is not a criticism of LaMelo Ball, but I thought Charlotte the other night played particularly collectively with a collective energy against us because everyone got to touch the ball. When the heliocentric player is no longer on the floor, you do see this take place. So let's not underestimate what the vibes on this team and what the vibe players are doing and how much that matters right now in what Kevin Love, George Niang are doing around the team, but also, and maybe most importantly, what Elijah Harkless is doing on the floor. How long does the Elijah Harkless play last next on Locked On Jazz? Let me introduce you to a new sponsor here on Locked On for you. It is Gusto. We actually originally built Locked On Gusto. Gusto was actually, it's kind of full circle to me to have Gusto as a sponsor, because when we were first starting, when we finally stopped having my wife do the payments out of a folder and sending like $4.23 checks, we use Gusto. So no one starts a business of joy by calculating taxing, withholdings, managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring on board or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end. Automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, direct deposits, and knowing you can reach HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today. Gusto.com/LockedOnNBA for 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at Gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. One more time, that's Gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by Rougette. It's time to perform, and Rougette is here to help you with that and make sure that you can, shall we say, rise to the occasion? Yeah, it's too easy. I know. I did it. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just a stress. I'm tired. It happens for everyone. But when it comes to performance, why not a little performance enhancement? Sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougette comes in. Fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougette makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. It's prescribed. Your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door, and the process is fast, simple, and private. It's all handled by real doctors. Confidence, connection, getting you to the moments that matter. Rougette.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. Don't forget to use our code LockedOnNBA so you know who sent you. Rougette. Stop making excuses. Start making moves. How long does the Elijah Harkless phenomena last? Okay, this is where the NBA is awesome. So Elijah Harkless has a few days more of doing this and wrecking havoc. And then he makes a scouting report. He might actually somebody might talk to Cade Cunningham about him today. He'll get Cade Cunningham tonight, who's their offense is Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham. First thing is he fouls a lot. So the question is whether he can figure out how to stay on the court without fouling. I mean, it's great because he plays with incredible intensity, but he does foul a lot. And if players know you foul a lot, can they lure you into those fouls? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that Elijah shot pretty well in the G League, but he has not shot well in the NBA yet. And the next thing that's going to happen is teams are going to give him a lot of space and say, make shots. So far in his career, he's made 26% of his threes. He's played 13 games. It's pretty limited sample size to be able to go off. In college, in his senior year, he shot 29% from three. In his 5 years, he shot 31% from three. Those numbers are not great. He just barely sub 70% free throw shooter. Partially because his freshman year is at 51%. So the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to give him a lot of airspace and kind of force him to shoot threes. And this goes back to one of the better quotes from Will Hardy about basketball life. Not basketball and life, basketball life. You have to make sure your weaknesses are not so bad that they derail the entire team. So in other words, if you can't shoot and they guard you with a center and put the center in the middle and dare you to shoot, you are derailing the entire offense and how it's run. Your weakness is now preventing the team from doing what it needs to do. If your defense is so bad that everyone just runs a switch and goes at you and takes you into the basket, then your defense is so bad that the team cannot run any schemes or do anything to try to have success. And therefore, you can't play. When your weakness is so bad that it derails the entire team, you've got to make your weaknesses get up to a level where you just play with the guys. And it's a weakness, but it's not so bad. And I do believe that the defensive-minded player is on the rise in the NBA, but they have to shoot 35% from three. The Tamari Kamaras, the Herb Joneses of the world are becoming more popular than ever. They're Elijah's 6'3". These guys are 6'9" and 6'8". But if they can shoot 35, 36, 37% from three, they're fine. Frankly, Herb Jones this year is hitting about half of his threes and is shooting 37% for his career now. Tamari Kamara can shoot. Like, these guys are incredible. Harkless has got to be in that mix, but he's got to shoot the three well enough that he can be on the floor. And he's got to find a way to not foul a lot. So those are the two things that are going to dictate how long this lasts. It's great right now. I know there was a whole article by Sarah Todd about, they can't do it. Like, let's hold the horses, unlike how permanent we think it was. There is a chance he's just a specialist, that he's coming off the bench. He's an NBA player because he plays with such tenacity, and he's awesome in how he does that. But there's a chance he's just a specialist who comes in and does exactly what he did and wins you a basketball game in Boston. And that'll make you a lot of money and be a career, and that's great. All right, Detroit tonight. Detroit last year made the big jump, surprised everybody. And now this year they seem to be following it up. They're 5-2. I actually didn't love the roster. I thought their loss of Malik Beasley and their loss of Tim Hardaway Jr., who I don't love, but did use possessions and did things, was going to be a problem for them. And that the addition of Jalen Duncan Robinson would be. But what they're doing is pretty darn interesting for us to look at. They have Cade Cunningham, who's 24. They have Jalen Duren, who's going to turn 22 here in a few days. They have Asur Thompson, who's 23. And I guess Isaiah Stewart probably counts in this mix, and we'll see if Ron Holland. And then they're just changing the veterans around him. It's very similar, actually, to the old Stockton Malone model, where you had the young players coming up and then you just adjusted the veterans around them all the time. This team really has no second scorer. Jalen Duren's averaging 17 points a game and is a beast right now and is breaking out in his fourth year. He's shooting 86% from the line and 61% from the field and breaking out. But this is an interesting little model to watch tonight. They're the fourth best defensive team. They're average offensively still. They do not shoot threes. So the roster's not entirely put together. They're as good as anyone defending the shot. This will be a real task for us offensively tonight to see what we're able to do. They're the number one team in the league defending effective field goal percentage right now. And so this is going to be a real challenge in a lot of ways for the Jazz tonight. But this is just an interesting building model for us to keep an eye on. So the veterans this year are Duncan Robinson. Tobias Harris is back. They've added Karis LeVert. They added Javonte Green. They have Paul Reed, who's kind of an older young guy. He's 26. And they're just switching those veterans to find the right mix around the young players, which is kind of an interesting model for us when we finally get our collective group, whether it's Walker, Keontae, Ace, and whomever, and then you just start to change the veterans around them over time. This is Locked On Jazz. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. Check out Locked On NBA Game Night. By the way, tune into the radio tonight on your drive home from work.